for this match. SK going to be banning first, Rogue second. And as the bans roll out, true to form as we were expecting, Rogue will ban Bank and Cafe will be banned out by SK, which is what both players talked about Ranger talked about in his interview and Mint talked about in his. SK doesn't want to take Rogue to Cafe, which makes a lot of sense. They're very comfortable on that map, and clearly Rogue doesn't want to take SK to Bank.
So for Rogue, I see 2 comfort picks in Chalet and Coastline, and then they get a preference pick in Bank. The fact that Rogue took 2 comfort picks leads me to believe that they are very okay with going to maps that SK might be favored on. Rogue says it's more important that we don't play our maps that we don't like than it is to play the maps that we think they're good at, because even if we play their maps, we'll probably be able to win. And look at that, Border, Consulate, and Oregon. Oregon as a decider is pretty true and pretty fair for everyone.
I do believe that Ranger did bring up Bank specifically as a point of a map that they didn't want to go to against SK. So there's a little bit of preference, a little bit of counter on both sides of the fence for me. Border and Consulate being our picks. I mean, overall, if you look, I think about a season back, this would be our top 3 played maps, and I'm not surprised by any of these being in here.
No. We know that SK Gaming is comfortable on Border. I think it's very interesting and very telling that it got through the ban phase. Means, like I said, one of 2 things. Either Rogue was very comfortable letting it go through and saying, okay, we'll play them on it and maybe we'll be able to beat them, or Rogue could have gotten beaten. That's something that we would have to talk to Ranger about, because the ban phase itself is always very interesting, because there are games that are fully won and lost before we even load into a round.
Yeah, and sometimes a lot of that information on who has exactly what map preference can be lost in the subtleties of the scrims and the dry runs that are outside of public view. Now, let's take a look at the community vote, see who you guys thought were going to win this match. Looks like it's in favor of Rogue, but only barely.
It's not that much of a surprise given how much success Rogue has had recently. You know, they've been one of the most consistent teams in North America. The only LAN that they missed in the last year or so was the most recent one in Sao Paulo, which they lost in the matchup against Infamy. But we do have the match ready, so we're going to be heading to Border for map number 1 between SK Gaming and Rogue. The winner of this matchup advances into the playoffs. They have a guaranteed shot to claim one of those LAN spots in 2 weeks' time. The loser still has a chance as well, but they have a harder path to get there. So, Border, map number 1.
Very dynamic map. I would say probably one of the most dynamic maps in the game, similar to another one we're going to be playing in this series, which is Consulate. So, lots of options for both teams. Neither of these teams going to struggle, obviously, strategically, or, I mean, you know, honestly, no matter where we went, I think both of these teams would be pretty well rounded and versed. This is kind of interesting. We're having a shield in the doorway to the main hallway. You usually don't see shields played. Most teams will prefer to bring barbed wire, but I actually kind of like that. It's forcing a double vault should you want to get into small office via the hallway.
Yeah, Rogue seems like a team that is very inventive with their strats early on and will pull things out before a matchup that they haven't really tried or seen before. You know, a lot of teams like to hide their strats, etc. I feel like they're cheeky. They're probably going to try and keep some things hidden and debut them when they need to. That could be one of them.
Could be. I mean, it's just a shield, right? It could just be a shield, but whatever it is, it's interesting, that's for sure. Something you don't always see. And, you know, that's worth talking about, because Rogue, I think if we look further back, we talked to Slashog, you and I, once in an interview, and he was talking about how his team felt like they were stuck a season behind. And that was a while ago. And from what we've been seeing from Rogue since the Invitational, they are no longer stuck a season behind. As you say, very inventive. They're making up new things as they go. And a lot of that stuff is giving them a very decisive edge over their opponents.
Now, one thing that I know that SK Gaming is a fan of is a very quick bull rush involving a lot of the operators right now that are quite popular. A good example is the Dogaby Lion and Ying, and Adam is just going to send it, as SK would say. The first kill, though, does go to Slash as Poach goes down, and the Ying of Adam doesn't get in anywhere. But amidst the confusion, Jarvis getting the plant down. It's 2v3. It's just up to Min and Jarvis, and they successfully get that diffuser. So now they just need to play full defense. As Min goes for a shot, but cannot connect. One will break out of the doorway, and Jarvis on Repel will be extremely vulnerable, seeing if the Jaeger of Eclipse can get him, but no. Mint will play around that one Radiator and cannot connect with Geo at all. They'll dive out, and Mint gets the kill on easily, looking to see if Geo is going to bother to peek as the diffuser hits the halfway mark on round 1.
Not very much time left on that diffuser, as you say, but Eclipse is going to get Jarvis. Mint now the last attacker. He's got his pistol out. He's waiting for the vault. Here's the fake. Chooses to peek it, and he's still managed to maintain his life. There's not much time left for the defenders. They've got to go, and no, Mint will save the round. Eclipse now no longer has time. He's going to go for the kill, not be able to get it. What a fantastic job there on the Radiator, juggling that diffuser post-plant. Mint with the clutch.
From scrim reports that we've heard, it's not uncommon to see teams try out strats involving a Jackal, a Lion, a Dokkaebi, a Blitz, a Finka, a Ying, and you don't even really need a hard breacher at that point. I know I just said 6 operators. I'm aware that there are 5 operators per team. My point being is that you can cycle those operators out as need be. Essentially, you get the plant down, as you saw here, within the first 45 to 50 seconds, you've got the plant down, and then you just need to play defense.
My favorite part about that is that the Ying, I believe it was Adam, if I'm not mistaken, the Ying trying to force his way into small office, missed the Candelas entirely, and if he hadn't, could have been a double kill, but it was all beside the point because it was just a distraction. It was just allowing his teammates to vault into B through the windows with no defenders in place to deny that. Now, kind of interesting here, SK in a way countering themselves. They brought Jarvis on the Pulse, who's going to be able to play underneath B. So should we see Rogue employ a similar strategy to what SK just did, SK will be able to counter that via C4 from below. Obviously worth noting that SK did not clear downstairs, so if there had been that on Rogue defense in the previous round, we likely would have seen a different result.
I would say that probably 3/5 of SK Gaming were inside the building at about the 30 to 45 second mark, which is something that is very, very bizarre. And it's not even they were inside the building, they were inside of sight.
Yeah.
And the way that Adam played it, swinging in all by himself onto that window and into that small office that we saw just by the beepers in Armory, that also allowed them to draw their attention away from Jarvis, who very safely got that plant off amidst the shroud of smoke. There was nobody contesting him inside of the actual office itself, and Jarvis basically just had all that room to maneuver and not have to worry about anybody pushing.
Eclipse very efficiently clearing out the bandit, or the potential bandit battery. There are none in this case, but he has dealt with that should it be a problem. I like the way that he managed that, not exposing himself whatsoever, nor opening up rotation for a potential run out from one of the defenders who are roaming downstairs. Also, CCTV control well in hand of Rogue, so they're well established for an A assault.
Make sure there's going to be no late CCTV flanks whatsoever. Now, a slower push than SK, but only because of the Blitzkrieg that they had brought with them. They will get one of the Armory walls, though, completely free. There's nobody there to push it.
The coordination on that wall take was really impeccable. They used the lifeline to deny any potential bandits, despite there not being one, while simultaneously the Twitch had opened up the mirror window. You know, an operator we talked about don't see nearly as much in this current meta. Rogue really using that tool like a surgeon's scalpel.
It's odd that there hasn't been a lot of Twitch, given the fact that Mira is such a high pick rate. Now another Thatcher will go off, and some lifelines will go out, just trying to concuss any of the defenders that could be positioned in such a way to stop this plant. There is a Ying available, that is Geo, and one part of that lifeline is it is proximity-based. Eclipse will try to get the Mira flushed out. Slash once again gets the first kill, this time onto Adam. Slash had gotten the first kill last round too. So that'll leave Rogue with an advantage of 1. They've taken the Jaeger down. Hopefully his ADSs have all been placed. They'll need to push in. It does appear that they've burned them all, though, as the projectiles having no problem going in. The smoke goes off in the doorway of the Ying. Slash gets his second kill. That's the Thermite with 2 kills so far, and Hot and down now, the Dock down, and they're likely going to go in and try for the point.
And here it comes, Geo rushing all the way through just to cover his teammates. Doesn't look like there's any C4 potential from below. The mirror window gets broken from a Twitch drone. The diffuser has been planted. Jarvis gets a double kill though. Slash and Eclipse go down. Mint gets Geo, and Rogue with the post plant have somehow lost control. No one in a position to deny the disable of the diffuser, but equally SK Gaming not in a spot to, well, disable. Brian now finally finds his way to CCTV, gets 1. Going for a second. Someone's hitting the diffuser right now. No, off the stick. It's going to be the mirror to rush into CCTV. Pojo Man, a little bit of a misplay, and now it's all up to Mint, but he goes down to easily. Brian and Mint in that, or Brian and Easily in that post plant. Fantastic job.
Just a bit of a staggered push from SK there to try and get rid of them. A really good hold by Rogue, but on top of that, SK just stacking up And especially Jarvis trying to rush through that entire open area by the armory wall. Hard to argue for that sort of play, especially given the fact that they knew that Rogue was likely rotating and there was no pressure from CCTV to draw Brian away. He just had a clear line of sight, and that was Pojo and Jarvis that he managed to take off of the board. So they've evened things up now as Rogue wins that round, moving us to round number 3. Once again, a Lion gets brought out, and SK Gaming is going to run almost identical composition, if not the identical composition, to round number 1.
We had a grace period in that previous round where SK could have disabled that diffuser because there was no one from Rogue in a position to watch it. We had the Twitch coming up back to the rappel. Brian was nowhere to be seen, and it was just in general, after Rogue lost their 3 post-plant immediate holds, they didn't have anyone to deny that disable. So, but SK didn't try to capitalize on that. Instead, they tried to rush it out and get full control, and they lost the round in the process. A little bit of a gamble. An understandable one, but unfortunate that it didn't work out for them.
Also a good place to plant, I think this needs to be brought to attention, was they planted directly where they had blown up the only armory panel, meaning that anybody going for the defuse would have been completely exposed as well. So that's one thing that makes it easier for the attackers to hold off on.
You know, it's kind of interesting. We had the Twitch downstairs watching for the run out, and yet at the same time, didn't go just open the front door and play the diffuser that way.
Reloading.
I mean, it probably would have been, I mean, possibly a safer way to play it, but I mean, it worked out for Rogue in the long run, so it's really beside the point.
And Brian needs a lot of credit for his play inside of CCTV.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So a really great retake from SK Gaming, or a masterful retake from SK, and Rogue is able to hold off on them. So well played by both teams. First EE1D is going to go out in 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. So just under, or just before a minute gets hit. They really didn't get much with it, though. Geo is spotted at least slightly. His first kill goes to Hot and Cold. That's the Lion. He eliminates Slash. So Slash involved in the first kill of every single round, but this time around, he is the victim.
And probably the worst possible victim besides possibly Brian, given that it's the Legion who generates more traps over time, and you really want him to, well, because of his overtime factor, be alive for a good amount of time. Eclipse playing in bunker, Mint going to try and challenge that. He has, I believe, used one of his smokes. Eclipse going to go wild and try to take that fight through the smoke. It's not going to work out for him. Mint hitting the shots that are oh so necessary. And there's the second EE1D, so only a single one left for that final push. But at the same time, Rogue down 2 members.
And they've had them fall off. Now, they knew that they couldn't go up to Armory due to both teams winning on, or rather, my apologies, both teams have won on attacks. They could have gone anywhere. They ran the same composition. They're attacking this very similar as the way you would if you had a Thermite, but they just have the Hibana instead. At the moment, Rogue might be trailing by 2 kills for this round, but they have time on their side. It's a minute left, and the attackers will have to start to streamline their way, or streamline their push, and filter into the site itself. They haven't done much to expose Geo, who's going to let that drone go by and not bother to shoot it, giving away his position. That, of course, does have some verticality to it, so they could think that he was playing upstairs as well. That's part of the strength of Vigil's ability.
Yeah, Geo's going to be the big X factor in this round, the playmaker, if you will, and he's going to need to do just that. SK Gaming, with only 27 seconds, are just waiting outside. They only have 1 EED left and a couple of smokes, but they're certainly going to be using that in the next couple seconds. Here it comes. As the EE1D pops off and the smokes go down, that's going to be a push in from Pojo, which will be thwarted by Easily waiting in the site. That's diffuser down and not planted, which is, with 6 seconds left, really bad for his team. Geo holding that push from the flank, but loses the fight. Adam, absolutely crazy, but it doesn't matter. Not enough time. Easily manages to win just on time alone, and a little bit of confidence there, as you can see from him. A bit of a misplay on SK's part where they just waited out that clock. You can do that on defense, not so much on attack.
No, and it didn't look like they knew who was doing what exactly. Sort of a last-minute call to switch roles around and switch positions. The Glaz of Mint pick up that diffuser, but was a hair too short because you can't get it off. Now, that time will, of course, be prolonged for people that might not be as familiar with the rule set, that even if the clock hits 0, as long as you are mid-diffuse plant, the round will continue onwards and only end if you get killed or give up the diffuse plant while you're in the process of doing it past the 0 mark.
Or, of course, if you get hit by like an Echo or a Gersmot,
right,
just disruption in general. If you stop planting, period, then the round's over at that point. But it didn't happen for SK Gaming because they decided to vault through the window rather than possibly, I don't know, push the front door. Now, the reason I say that is because when you're vaulting through that window, you're entering yourself into a kind of a no-win situation, easily on a long angle, prone, just waiting. It's pretty, well, it's easy to win that fight. There's no way you're going to come out on underneath in that one. Whereas maybe if you push through the front door, you're going to have a better time of things. You can potentially refrag as you're not vaulting in the middle of your fight. You can also potentially pick up the diffuser before the time runs out. Now, we are going to see a 75% hold from SK. They're going to go into CCTV. See the mirror windows being placed. Interesting reinforcement in the middle of that office wall. I'm not sure what that's for exactly. We'll see, I'm sure.
SK Gaming strikes me as a team that does not just do things haphazardly. So there is a purpose to that. There is a method to this madness, though they are, of course, a team that has had some creative strategies that have confused us in the past.
I'm going to guess that it has something to do with the angle you can achieve through office wall into Archive's doorway. Something along that. It did look like that was the angle they were trying to block off. But it's not really going to matter. It looks like as Rogue are setting themselves up yet again for an A-site assault. Now, they're taking it a little bit slower, but this is their general plan. Geo, as you can see, looking his way over to CCTV and CCTV rotation easily yet again. As you said, a bit of an understated player. Going to be able to open up both Miro windows. He's been having a great time on Twitch lately. Reminds me of what we've seen from Laxing in the past on Border.
Now, I like that the two teams have done something different. So in round number 1, Rogue loses Armory, so they say let's go for Workshop for our second time. And Slash just barely missing Jarvis.
Inches.
Sitting inside of sight, and yes, a game of inches. But SK is going to go with Armory both times. Hot and cold, though, inside of CCTV, or security, rather, sees Slash. And once again, Slash is a part of the first kill for the 4th round in a row. Smoke's going to go out and allow Geo to come inside, but he hits one of the goo mines. And we'll have to stop for just a second and pull that needle out of his foot. The C4 will completely miss, and Geo will be able to get away with it because of the ill-timed C4 from Adam, as it had just sailed over top, and Geo is finding some safety inside of that staff room.
Now, the real important thing here is that Slash, having gone down so early, is the Thermite. So Rogue now have to reevaluate their entire attack strategy since they have 0 hard destruction, and not nearly as much just disruption in general, because they don't have a Ying, for example. They're going to have to rely primarily on Eclipse and Geo with that Glazofia.
And Geo as well only has the one smoke grenade there, as you can see on your screen. Tries to go for a line of sight in the office, but can't see it because he hits the wooden beam in the middle. Only 30 seconds to go, though, and both teams have lost one operator apiece. Far more detrimental, though, is that Rogue, as you pointed out, has lost their only hard breacher. The Legion for Thermite is a good trait in and of itself, even though it did come a bit spaced apart. Geo will toss down one gas grenade, and it will be answered by Smoke, as he will inhale a whole bunch of toxic gas. Ryan inside, though, he gets down. Adam and Pojo climb in on the action, leaving just easily in Geo left. 2 of the newest members of Rogue, and they'll run out of time for the second round in a row. A failure to stick the plant will lead to the defenders hanging on, and we are all tied up 2 apiece on Border. This is SK's map. Don't forget.
What do you think that was? Do you think that's just nerves that were getting so long down to the clock? I mean, in that round, it was very clearly the fact that they lost their hard destructor and they needed to rotate sites. And good on them for making that decision to rotate, but it was a bit too late. And I'm wondering why. What was the delay on that call?
I think they were all set up, and the placement of the Mira, I think, needs to take I guess a lot of credit for what slowed that push down. So usually we don't see the Mira placed on that farthest wall from the door, but we did that time, and it was opened, which meant that it was very difficult for Slash to be able to get to that wall and plant one of the, or get one of the exothermic charges off and plant it itself. I don't know if that was the be-all end-all, if there was that hesitation because of it, but you could definitely see there was a lot of patience there from Rogue, trying to figure out, are we going to get pushed? What are we going to do? By the time they had an answer, Slash was dead, and they had to completely change their plan.
Yeah, obviously, you know, you put it on that far wall because you need to help your teammates on the west side of the balcony with the 75% hold. So that CCTV mirror window that faces into the hallway is supported by the mirror window that faces the west bank. I mean, it's just a little bit of collaboration between the roamers and the anchors, but you're right. I think having that be open really did stall Rogue up a little bit. And you know, it's not exactly Easely's fault that he opened the mirror window. I mean, that's his job. That's what he's supposed to do. And I don't think that it's something that Rogue couldn't have tiptoed around and managed to make work. It just didn't work.
There was also an inability for them to cover CCTV because of the fact that Hot and Cold got that free kill onto Slash. And I would argue that that probably was a free kill. Slash did not appear to be fully in tune where the Legion of Hot and Cold was playing. Now this is a very cheeky drone from SK. Jarvis spots one lying down inside just by Fountain, and will now have one logic bomb go off. The same composition that SK used to just rush right inside of the site, and a very similar strategy will now emerge, except the focus will be primarily over the vents system. Adam will not just toss himself into the site the way he had before. And take a look, these are two SK drones that are situated, if you're watching and you want any, I guess, motivation to get better at your drone skill, there's one of them.
Adam gonna eat a couple bullets there as he peeks wide. But as you say, that information game, well in hand for SK Gaming. They seem to have a good advantage right now. Pojo Man trying to bait out some utility. Brian's on the far side of the site, though. He's not going to be able to deny this plan, at least not immediately. And here we go. Pojo Man is going for it. Mint covering. C4 misses entirely, but the second one won't. Easily gets Adam, but the defuse has been planted. Easily will also get Houghton. Clips running out elsewhere. I believe that was from office window. Will be shut down by the Claymore from Pojo Man. So far, a pretty decent post plant from SK Gaming, but Rogue have the man advantage, so there's potential for this retake. They're gonna have to start moving quickly though, as there's not much time left on that diffuser.
They'll likely need to double up on that glass out on top of the ventilation system. It was so difficult for them to achieve last time around. We'll see if they'll be able to get one, but no, Mint up there takes one down. Jarvis gets another. Geo goes for the run out. He takes Jarvis, but Poge locks it down, and there's only one left. It's Slash who falls off. No way whatsoever, and SK Gaming regains the lead, as Slash can't do much at all. 3-2 in favor of SK.
So yet again, we see one of those strategies where you just isolate, use disruption, and plant the diffuser, see success, despite some decent play from the defense to deny that plant.
That's the second defense on Armory where Rogue has ignored that office side and let SK basically take control of it.
I wouldn't say ignored. I mean, they put two C4 in a position to deny the plant. The first C4 missed, the second one didn't, but it was too late. The plant had already gone down. So all in all, ignored is a strong word, but they do seemingly need to invest more in holding B. I mean, that's very clearly where SK are stacking their assault, and it doesn't seem like they're going to adjust from that anytime soon. So yeah, I agree with you. I think they need to put more emphasis on that side. Maybe bring an Echo. I mean, bring something to stop that plan.
The only reason why I say ignore was because they had far more bodies and far more utilities stacked up over on the Armory side. That's the only reason
They had their smoke over there, too.
Yes, that is to me the most egregious. And Brian did throw a smoke all the way down, and it just missed. But you need to have more than one person playing in there, in my opinion. You can't just rely on tossing projectiles and getting in, and that was where...
If we're seeing that attack strategy from SK twice in a row, you're putting a pulse downstairs because why not? SK's not clearing downstairs. You're putting C4 in the site because obviously they're not going to be clearing the far side of Archives where they're trying to plant. They're just trying to isolate it. So yeah, C4. You're putting your smoke also possibly in the vicinity so that he can deny that plant. You're putting an Echo as a pick so you have even more options. Yeah, I mean, it's an isolate, disrupt, and plant strategy from SK, and Rogue needs to use the correct operators' tools to counter that strategy, and they just haven't seen success so far. I'm sure they'll adjust, though, moving forward into their next Armory defense.
Now, we've seen Armory and Workshop be the two sites. 4 for Armory and 1 for Workshop. Will now go down to Customs, as SK Gaming had locked out Workshop. So they could have gone, or SK Gaming rather has locked out Armory. So they could have gone to Workshop, but instead they'll go down to Customs instead. This is something that we've seen some teams use as kind of a 2A, 2B type scenario where you can basically use those interchangeably depending on your strengths. And for Rogue, they are well positioned in terms of operators to be able to take this fight. Certainly geared very well towards a push into Workshop downstairs. If they need it, you've got the Thermite to take the bathroom wall, you've got Hibana for hatches, but that's going to be a little bit more difficult to apply, and they'll use one of those exothermic charges to open up detention just outside of the site in Customs.
So, Passport going to be the primary entry here from Rogue, which is pretty common on this site. I mean, we saw, you know, the most recent time we saw success on this attack strategy, I think it was actually ENCE Season 6 Finals, I want to say. It was a long time ago, but you don't see this defense strat very often. And Rogue trying to counter it as best they can. Slashug possibly disabling that mirror window later on, but Adam gonna take out easily with a nice headshot. Adam's been doing pretty well on Mira so far.
He's also played a distraction role. Hasn't really been going for frags as that Ying. He's been doing a lot of work to try to keep them occupied. And, even though I said that they needed to focus more on B Rogue, it also has to go to Adam for keeping them busy over there. Jarvis is going to get a kill on the Slashug, and this is a return to form for Jarvis, who had a disappointing match against Mouse. He's playing much better this time around, and that's giving SK Gaming a lot of breathing room. You've lost both of the hard breachers from Rogue, but Brian will take out Jarvis, and Eclipse eliminating Adam will make it an even contest. The Castle and the Mira are gone from SK Gaming, and those are two good players in hot hands so far. Though they do have 30 seconds, make that 20 seconds rather, as we're halfway through. One frag from Eclipse will be dispatched inside of Customs, but find no one, though Poach does take some significant damage. They're waiting to push in now. You can hear a C4 go. Geo starts the plant, and it will be up to Eclipse to cover, but Houghton is there to take him out. It looks like the plant from Geo will go down. They don't know what's happening, and they need to take care of him. Brian from above, and Geo will take him down. It's a 1v1 as Mint and Brian will square off with the diffuser chiming away in the background. Who can clutch this? We could potentially go to match point. Mint goes for a fire through the ground. Brian takes half of his life off, and Mint will need to start to defuse, but he sees the head. Brian with the clutch. Rogue will tie this up, and Mint with that second of hesitation could have been the victory for his team, but it's Brian who will take it instead.
What a roundabout round. It just went back and forth. The ebb and flow of that round was insanely fast-paced. I mean, we had the early advantage SK, and then Rogue started bringing it back, picking apart some of the guys who were playing upstairs. We also had the Buck downstairs in the main hallway, taking some of the anchors down. But then we saw SK in the latter end of the round rotate down to the site because they said to themselves, okay, there's only 20 seconds. We may as well just play the site and wait out the time. Totally reasonable, makes a lot of sense. But then the late flank above, I believe that was Brian on the Thatcher. What an amazingly well-timed play from him, and more importantly, the fact that Rogue was able to get the plant down without any contention from SK. What is happening there?
They did plan in a spot that is completely invisible, unless you are in an area with it, but in an area to see it. And there wasn't anybody from SK there. They were too busy wondering, could anybody push in? It was Geo who had snuck in at the same time that I believe Easily or Eclipse ran in. I believe it was the Eclipse playing on Buck.
Yes, he was playing on Buck.
He had ran in to take point on that. He got killed by Hot and Cold, but amidst that fury, Geo wasn't suspected at all. And then Brian, who has now had 2 rounds that he has almost single-handedly kept the defenders off of that diffuser, he just stands from above and is able to take it out. And yeah, you gotta worry. You gotta wonder if you're Mint, when he hesitated there for a second, firing up to see if that was the Thatcher. Indeed, if he had just committed to it, probably would have gotten the kill, and that would have gone to SK, and we would be on match point. But instead, no, we're all tied up.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that, like you said, he read it perfectly. Mint had a full understanding of that situation. He just didn't commit, as you say. He hesitated. So Rogue going to be bringing 2 anti-hard disruptors in Mute and Bandit both. So we do see a lot more Mute, I think, in current seasons. But so far, not as much Bandit as per usual.
Mint will begin his push. They have no real ability to take care of all of those Bandit wires. They'll have to buck from below if they want to make it work. Mint's just going to use that smoke and come in, and he'll take out 1 Bandit barricade, and that will allow them to open up for Adam, their sole hard destructor. They haven't really been running a Thermite much on SK Gaming, the same that Rogue hasn't been running a Lion, which is very interesting. So with that said, the 100% pick rate for Lion will end. Rogue obviously knew they had that power in their hands, and they'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, also SK doesn't have a Thatcher, and in this situation where you're dealing with 2, oh no! Brian moving ever so slightly will get lit up from below, but Jarvis with the nade is going to eat 25 damage off of his own himself, and that was a little bit of a mistake, and because of that, he will not secure the kill. Brian will get picked back up. A little bit of a whoopsie there. Geo, though, peeks wide through the doorway, I believe, and manages to get Houghton. Clips also gets Jarvis, and now Rogue in tip-top form as one of the EE1Ds finishes off. Geo just waiting for another kill. We also have a heavy roam game downstairs from Rogue. They've read the fact that SK aren't going downstairs very much, and Pojo in the main hallway upstairs will die in pretty much, I mean, lackluster fashion. A little bit of a displacement. Wow, what a kill from Easily. Mint barely even seeing him, and that's going to be, actually, excuse me, Eclipse getting the first kill. Easily getting the last one, though. That was a very odd engagement over by the main hallway. Mint didn't really even see Eclipse on his screen.
I feel like all of these rounds have just been such odd pacing from these teams.
It's weird.
As you said, the ebb and flow feels off. It definitely does. There's moments where there should be action and there are lulls. And I mean, you have Pojo as Lion basically going in all by himself to Beepers. He gets pushed, then Eclipse pushes up farther, and he manages to somehow outduel the Glaz of Mint. And now Rogue sits on match point on SK's map. So they win successfully on defense.
That last round was just a head scratcher. Very confusing. Back and forth. Not back and forth. No, it was weird. I mean, we had first of all, SK for the first time, they're trying to attack something that's not the B site on the top floor. And they choose to go for the A wall. Didn't work out for them very well. They didn't have a Thatcher, which meant the Bandit Mute combination really tripped them up, and that was visible in how slow they were in that round. And then more importantly, they didn't really seem to get control, maintain control, and then execute. They were simply lingering in their positions. And because of that, a little bit of well, not a little bit, a lot of miscommunication, clearly, as you say, like Pojament, for example, over by the main hallway in, he was just outside cafeteria on the balcony. I mean, or no, excuse me, he was pushing in the main hallway. That was Mint on the balcony. But either way, both of them just out by them on their own, trying to fight their own game, and it's just confusing.
I feel like there are a number of rounds that could have gone either way, but you know, what ifs are not a real great way of gauging the success of these teams. For Rogue, they have not been playing Lion as reliably as other teams, but Eclipse will bring the Lion out this time around as they stare down match point and could potentially be in very good shape to go to Consulate, which is their map choice after taking SK's map away from them. They've managed to come inside of waiting room there in the main lobby downstairs, and we'll go for drones. And some excellent drones that have been on display today, too. I know that we like to talk about Valkyrie cams, but the drone economy and the way that you use drones and position drones is something that often goes overlooked.
I mean, it's something I've always wanted is, like, how much time do people spend on drones? It'd be nice to see it on the scoreboard, to be honest.
The rare Ella pick from Mint sitting inside of offices, waiting to see if there's anybody who's going to pressure from above. That's a very common spot to see a grenade drop down, but no, there will be no one. It's Pojo up top waiting to see if anybody will push in through east stairs. You've got Slashug as well as Geo positioned on that window. That's the Ying and the Buck, both of whom are able to do some significant damage. Slashug with that skeleton key to good use, opening up the soft wall just by offices, and Mint will likely be the one to be discovered as Easily sends his drone in. And about half of the round will go by at this point, and you can hear the push finally beginning to take shape from Rogue.
The E1D is going to force Mint to stand still. Luckily for him, there are no nades, but he actually will move at the last moment. Buck is now on the ceiling, setting up the nade for that spot, and it'll miss. Oh no, Slashug, a little bit of a hiccup there. The second one comes out and also misses. Mint now going to be able to continue to play in his position, but he will rotate regardless. Get Ying from behind. That's Geo. Nice headshot from him. And he's been doing some great work here, disrupting this push from Office. Second EE1D now, and he's still able to play his position. And
some rotates as well as Rogue realizes that with the Ying gone, their push inside of Office is going to be made that much more difficult. And they've used a lot of utility to start this push, but they won't have much to finish it. They'll have to rely on a lot of fragging potential. Though the Eclipse, the Lion of Eclipse rather, will take out Jarvis, and as Easily tries to enter, there's Adam to stop him inside of CCTV. Once again giving SK a numbers advantage of 1. The only one down is Jarvis, that's the Pulse, who is very crucial in the dying minutes, using that cardiac sensor to be able to spot people through the floors and able to shoot them with the UMP or even get a C4 kill if need be. But About to hit the 15-second mark, and Rogue is going to have to push quickly. Eclipse still from below, trying to do work on the site. Slash holds that diffuser, but he's got 10 seconds to get inside of the site itself and isn't anywhere close. Brian comes in and manages to take out Adam, but they're just simply running out of time. Brian almost a team kill, but 2 from SK will send us to overtime. They are not going to go quietly into that good night. 4-4, and we'll see which team gets the pleasure of defending potentially twice.
Both teams on attack. What is with this time management? What is going on? I mean, we're seeing Rogue do some really weird stuff. For example, SK Gaming, they're not bringing Mute or Bandit very often. There are 2 operators that they're choosing to kind of put in a corner. We have Bandit coming out now, but it's not as much utilized by them as it's being utilized by Rogue. Yet at the same time, every round, Rogue has tried to counter the potential Mute and Bandit, which has absorbed a lot of their time on the round. So I don't know. The time management from both teams is kind of just not being fantastic. It's possible that they're taking each other extrememe seriously. I mean, this is a very important match. Yes, the winner of this match will go on to be the #1 out of their group. So that's fantastic. Of course, you want that. You're guaranteed you're not going to have to go to relegations. So also fantastic. You could potentially get there if you lose this and then lose the next. But I mean, or actually, pardon. But it doesn't matter. It's all beside the point, really. The main thing here is just in this match, the time management has been less than ideal.
The thing to note is that if you're Rogue, if you lose this matchup, the only way that you make it into the playoffs is by defeating Evil Geniuses. So for Rogue, we could end up in a situation where if SK Gaming wins this, they'll take first overall on their seed. Like I said, the only path for Rogue in would be to then win their next matchup against either CLG or Mouse, and then against Evil Geniuses. So we could be facing a situation similar to right now we have in EU, where if ENCE manages to win all of their matches to make it into the playoffs, they have to defeat Penta in order to make it to LAN. Rogue could be doing the same thing, and I mean, hey, if you're Rogue, do you really want to face EG? First kill, though, goes to SK as Hot and Cold manages to down Slash Hug, and then the Gumine will finish him off, and that is their Ying. Oh no, you've lost your Ying in 50 seconds.
Yeah, last time it was the Thermite, this time the Ying, and just in general, Rogue struggling a lot on the earlier parts of some rounds, many rounds I would say. I mean, I want to say early. Early is the wrong word. We're a minute into this round now, and only just now did the first kill come out. Now Geo will respond, Pojo eats a nade, so that's the same thing happening for SK Gaming. You've got both the gas and the smoke on both sides just completely eliminated, and now neither disruption for the attack nor stall for the defense.
You've lost 2 incredibly impactful operators as well as good players down. Now, likely having that smoke play either by the hatch, above or below it, depending on how SK's situation in Customs works. A lot of teams will put the smoke upstairs in CCTV to watch that hatch and drop when need be. Though Pojo, the last time we saw him playing Customs, was downstairs by the metal detectors. We've lost half of the round so far, and EE1D will go out, and everybody will freeze as Geo could potentially push in. You can see that the Mira is just crouched and waiting. It's Adam who's been having a good day so far, though Mint has definitely been the standout on his team, and Geo knows that he'll have to contend with the Mira window. And just a panic spray through the wall as Adam hits him for just a little bit of damage.
And he's going to set up a nade, and this actually might be enough to kill the Mira, but no, Adam gonna vault out and choose to fall back to site. Actually, at this point, pretty smart, given that we're looking at 50 seconds now, and Easley is only just now going to have opened up the wall, enabling a potential plant in the later parts of the round. Now, Eclipse has taken control of her armory and will use one of his EE1Ds, leaving him with just one more. Defender detected inside of office, that's Jarvis, but Mint comes up the main stairs to refrag very swiftly. That's some good teamwork there, realizing his teammate has been detected and will likely die, and already positioning himself for a refrag, but equally so, he gets eliminated. So Mint off the board, and it's just Houghton and Adam to clutch it out with 17 seconds.
15 seconds to go.
A little bit of a dodge there of the spray from Easley. Very lit up though.
10 seconds left.
Lesion will die extremely quickly, and Geo in a position to plant from behind. Easily will get hot, and Adam now the last defender, but only 2 seconds. The plant's not going down right now. And the defenders are gonna win on time alone. What has just happened yet again? This is the 3rd time that this has happened in this match.
I am in utter disbelief as to the rhythm of this game so far and how there just seems to be no pace whatsoever. Adam just simply persists and the round goes, but they were able to read it this time. Brian was up at the hatch, which he had proved to be so successful on previously. SK wisely avoided that entire area of customs, meaning that Brian was basically up there as a sentinel, but he was doing watch duty for bodies that weren't going to show up. They took out Geo as he was mid-plant, and that was it. And now SK is back on match point. They have been unable to make anything happen with it so far. So we'll see.
Most of these round wins are either on the defenders waiting out the time or the attackers winning in the post plant with still defenders left alive. Most of these.
Or it's not even the defenders winning, it's just the attackers unable to commit to a plant on time, not realizing that that clock just doesn't stop running.
I mean, some really unfortunate. I mean, both teams are playing really well. I mean, there's a struggle with the time management on attack. That's fair, but you have to say I mean, it's definitely worth saying that both teams are playing well on defense, and just in general, each player individually is trying to outplay their opponents, and it's we've seen some pretty awesome plays, though. It's making for a very interesting match overall, what we've seen so far.
And speaking of interesting match, they're right now not going to bother to go armory, so neither teams will go upstairs for their maiden voyages on defense here in overtime. No matter what happens, there will be, if SK loses rather, there will be one more round. They'll spy a 1 kill hole, but there's nobody there watching the other side of it. That'll stare directly at the half wall inside of armory. It's Eclipse playing in break room.
So this rotation is not likely to be caught out. And he's playing, of course, Vigil, so he could at any time use his ability to try and distract his opponent. Yeah, Houghton actually going to just glide over Cafeteria. That is unfortunate there, as that is likely going to result in Eclipse getting at least 1 kill at the flanks of SK as they progress into this top floor. Now, it could not be the case, but still, it's the potential of.
Finally hits it, he'll come out and he'll take out Adam, not expecting the Vigil to be there, and now he'll push up onto East Stairs. He can stare wildly at the glass, wondering if he sees that barrel though go as his phone starts to ring. Will Mint hear it is the real question. The Vigil still lying prone. He will army crawl his way towards East Main and possibly go for a push. He still has those impacts and can get an impact kill under the glass, and he will! Mint falls, Eclipse having a banner round as he now heads back towards the site, and he drops using those impact nades. Only 3 members of SK left as they've lost the Glaz and the Hibana, and we just hit below halfway. Eclipse has very little health, but everybody else for the rest of Rogue is fully prepared for anything that can be brought them, as they all have full health.
I have to say mad props to Eclipse there. That was one of the most magnificent roams that I have seen in a while. Very well played, understanding what he's facing and countering it beautifully. Now, top floor control is in hand of SK, but similar to very many other rounds in this match so far, 40 seconds left on the clock. So, Rogue with a man advantage and positional advantage, they're going to be, I think, fine as they just hold out as another EE1D pops off.
There's a lot of pressure from above from Jarvis. There are enough bodies for Rogue to just simply hold your angles and possibly lose 1 or 2, but still have somebody there for the refrag. And SK will need to hurry. They've got 20 seconds left. They are above. They have control above. That's okay. But every single member of Rogue right now is sitting down on that main floor, and they will need to be pushed through in order to get the plan off. We could find ourselves in another scenario where the plant just can't go off appropriately. Pojo gets a Claymore kill onto Eclipse. They have 5 seconds for him to get into sight. Geo will deny the plant as Poach falls, and they're just going to run right out of time. It is a clown fiesta, and the defenders hold on yet again. Rogue manages to persevere this time around, holding off on that push in the final dying seconds, and we have match point of match points, round number 11, both teams at 5 apiece.
I have to say, I sincerely hope that this type of gameplay doesn't really persist into the second map, because what we've been seeing is just time and time again, the time being the deciding factor in every round. I mean, we've had, I want to say 2 rounds so far where it hasn't been what we just witnessed.
It has been perplexing.
Perplexing is the word.
Defenders, protect
Could just be
your
that
bombs
both these
from being
teams are not
defused
very
by
well
attackers.
acquainted with one another as well. We don't really know how familiar they are in scrims.
I mean-
we don't know. You said that they're taking each other very seriously. That
They
could
do
be
seem
why
that way.
as well.
I mean, we're talking, okay, Slashhug and Eclipse. Slashhug and Eclipse, Pojo, Mint, and Hotten, these are all players that are very familiar with each other. They've been playing together since day one, and I think Pojo, Mint, and Hotten, of course, that's one of the trios in the North American region that has some long time consistency. So I'm not sure. I don't think that's an argument that's fair. I think these teams, they're definitely familiar with each other. It's possibly that they're both adapting to each team's use of the new meta, which is so influential. I mean, we've seen a number of teams in a number of different regions. 1UP, for example, 1UP as a team is adapting really well to the new meta. They seem to have a good handle on it, and it's apparent in their gameplay. And it's possible that they're just, these two squads are not used to each other's use of that new meta.
Adam had gone for the spawn peak just outside of the balcony on Armory, and narrowly missed, losing his own head as he was able to get back inside of CCTV successfully and then held off, shooting away at that one door. Rogue, with everything on the line, is not going to bother to bring a Lion, which is peculiar at this point in the game, at least for this season. They'll run with a composition that has plenty of ability to disrupt, which is a word that we have come back to on numerous occasions, likely involving that Ying and Zofia as the two most important parts of that push. Though the mural will get dropped from below, so Pojo's one mural window was positioned on the Armory wall will be completely zapped, and that was easily doing the work on the Twitch front.
He's been playing a really great game as Twitch so far, and Brian has been hitting his shots hot and going for, I would say, an ill-advised run out from the top of East Stairs, and he will meet his demise at the barrel bullet of Brian.
Yeah, that's the second spawn peak that SK Gaming has gone for. And they're a team that does make some head-scratching decisions that sometimes pay off, sometimes they don't. In that case, you've got just over half the round left to go, and you're going to spawn peak, or rather run out as a dock. Maybe try to stay on site and conserve those stim pistols. They'd go a long way. It looks like Mint might be doing it as well, but here's the biggest issue. There's a Claymore available to him. He manages to dive around, and how many people held their breath over that one as he just narrowly misses the red beam of the Claymore. Ella's Scorpion no longer able to do a lot of work at long range due to that spray pattern.
Yeah, if someone had been at the far range, it would have been difficult shots, that's for sure. But here comes the push, and there's a minute left, so really good time management so far from Rogue. Brian will be downed, but Slashhug runs in and gets a double kill onto Pojo and Jarvis. Adam finally shuts him down. And through the mirror window, which has been broken thanks to Easily, Geo will get Adam as he attempts to rotate into small office. Mint, though, in CCTV from the flank gets Eclipse, and he's still got a chance in this round. He's got a delay for 30 seconds, but it's a 1 versus 2. Brian's still down on the far south balcony. Now Mint's going to rotate back to CCTV, trying to outplay his opponent, and he's going to catch Twitch from behind! Mint, what are you doing? What just happened? Mint, no! No, man, no! No!
That's going into Digest.
That is. What's up, Digest? How's it going? It's a good one. It's gonna be a good one.
It's going into Digest. So you have the possibility to go up, and what a read. I am just...
That was inches from a 1v1.
That could have been a 1v1, and those are plays that just, they break your heart. They just, I wish you could hear how hard production is laughing right now, because I think we
could
all
hear
just, we are all just astonished. We are all just so puzzled at what just happened.
We all do it. We all make mistakes like that. I think it's safe to say that any one of us could have made that exact same mistake. It's totally fair. Totally fair. He obviously thought it was a corpse.
I don't even know if he did. I think he was just trying to go for... We saw this last week. Who was it that last week in the matchup in Europe where it was Hicks, was creeping up the stairs and saw the Lion and was waiting to try and maybe have the Lion push and go undetected, but threw it away. And now we're in a situation where Mint could have put himself in a 1v1 spot by taking care of that Twitch, maybe even just knifing him, but no.
To me, he didn't even notice.
It basically throws him away. He had to have noticed and seen him there. And
I think he just thought it was a corpse. I mean, he didn't adjust his crosshair at all when he first saw the twitch. He came around the corner and he was just looking at the wall, and he didn't even slightly. I mean, usually when you see someone, you're gonna adjust to the head, be ready for when they finally detect you. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's gonna be first map now, and in favor of Rogue. Good. So good job for them, managing to bring that to. We brought it all the way. Brought it all the way to 6-5.
Of course, that is the ending.
Mm-hmm.
That is the ending. So Consulate is up as the second map. Let's speak about exactly where we are. So SK basically had an opportunity. There were so many rounds on both sides played out during that matchup where both teams had an opportunity to take the round away from each other, and they ended up losing it. And I would say losing it because I think there were more rounds lost than there were definitively won.
It did feel that way.
Between Rogue and SK. So now Consulate is going to launch in just a moment for us, and it's going to be Rogue's map. Now, they managed to take SK's map by a hair, and I literally say by a hair, because the twitch was so close, and it was a real shocking end to that first quarrel between the two teams. Now, we'll see if SK is able to bounce back onto Consulate. They will no doubt be kicking themselves with the final 30 seconds after Mint looked poised to be able to clutch it for his team and put himself in a 1v1 against Geo. But no, that was a new day, or this is a new day. We'll see how Consulate fares. A lobby defense will be the start for Rogue. They will defend first, and Rogue has a 1-0 lead. If Rogue wins this matchup, or this map, they will win this matchup, and they will go to the playoffs.
So they've got to be feeling good about their chances after making that extreme comeback. I mean, we were seeing a lot of attacker-sided, or attackers not doing that well on border. They've been struggling a lot with getting their time management in play. And you saw Rogue in that last round. They locked it up. They attacked with a whole minute left, and that was probably the most efficient round we saw on that map.
5 seconds to go.
So going on to this map, of course, Consulate, they're going to be starting with defense, and they will be bringing a very utility-heavy defensive side. As you can see, lots of information. You've got the Echo, the heartbeat sensor, and the Valkyrie cameras all to gather information. Now, kind of an interesting angle that was being used there by Eclipse. You don't, or easily, excuse me, the E-names. You don't often see that angle used anymore. Actually, it used to be a little bit more prevalent in the past. Then they added some boxes to the corner so you couldn't play it anymore. Then they removed the boxes. It's been a back and forth.
Looked like Geo was going to go for a spawn peek as well. I don't know what it is with these two teams, thinking that the spawn peeks will work out. At that distance, the MPX of a Valkyrie is doing about 4 damage. So I mean,
it's all about those headshots, bro.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you can hit them. They're tricky shots, but you know, obviously if you can go for a safe spawn peek, something that'll give your team a decisive advantage should you hit it while not exposing yourself too much, then I say go for it. But yeah, it hasn't been working out for either team so far.
So they'll survey how to begin this push. Like most maps, the most important part of Consulate is taking control of the second floor above lobby. Once you can wrestle that away from the defenders, you have taken a significant portion of map control away from them. Adam is going to get downed on yellow stairs. There's a drone on top of him, and as he tries to climb his way back up, they'll be able to find him very easily. Brian will smoke Adam. He had no chance whatsoever. His own drone isn't able to help him, and none of his teammates could get there in time. Mint just not able to, even though he saw that the IQ was crawling for help.
Didn't see the engagement, but I sincerely hope that wasn't a drop from the skylight. I doubt it would be, but either way, trying to engage onto the bathroom from that doorway, obviously what the defender's going to be holding primarily. Now Houghton will even it out, though he'll get easily. Very important frag, that's the pulse gun, so information game being shipped away from Rogue. Eclipse will respond though. Houghton also goes down, and the Lion. Absolutely fantastic kill for his team.
And that was Houghton who'd taken easily out, I believe, downstairs. You can see the Pulse's body splayed out on the floor, meaning that they don't have the ability to stop a plant with that C4. And yes, as you said, the information will no longer be available for them. Now Houghton also dying as he had used 1 or 2 of his EE1Ds will make it a little bit more difficult for the defense, or for the attackers rather, and a little bit easier for the defense, but they're already in good position. They have a numbers advantage though, and no, Jarvis runs up and Geo is just waiting at long desk. They still have yet to successfully clear out that second floor, and given that they only have 30 seconds and only 2 people left, it's going to be very difficult for SK to be able to pull this one off. Though they will Candela and flash inside, Mint takes out Brian, who was playing just underneath that window, as Poge is waiting to see if there's anybody who's going to cross. They come right into the bathroom, waiting, but Geo is still above. He takes out Pojo, and Mint looking for that Yokai. He finds it, fires into the smoke, but he is being outgunned right now, and Geo 3 kills on the round for the newest member of Rogue. He's had a very good day so far. No misses on screen, similar to what we had seen from 2 weeks ago. He's been so strong, and Rogue only 4 rounds away from putting this in the history books.
Yeah, this is a very important match. Of course, SK trying to establish their resurgence, and honestly, I think that they've done that even after losing the first map. You know, they played exceptionally well, better than I think a lot of people would expect them to. And despite them losing, they've still got a chance here on Consulate. So could see that map number 3, which would be Oregon, should we go to it. Top floor defense will be the first choice for SK Gaming. They're also going to be bringing a castle. They're not going to be they're not going to try and be inventive though, like we saw Rogue on that previous round. I mean, I say that, yet at the same time, we've been seeing a lot of that main lobby defense lately. Yeah,
lobby has become very important, and so much so that we were only seeing a couple teams run it a season or 2 ago, especially last season. It wasn't very much in favor in North America, and I don't believe a lot of some Latin America teams ran it a lot, but not all of them ran it reliably. I think now we're seeing
5 seconds to insertion.
You got 3 sites on Consulate, you can play them all.
Yeah.
And if you do well on the second floor, then some of that I think transfers over to hold on lobby, given how similar a lot of teams will set up.
Yeah, and it's been kind of that same back and forth story on site preference for Consulate for a long, long time. You know, people cite, for example, operators that are released and new metas and all that yada yada as reasons for their selection of their bomb sites on Consulate. But honestly, again, it seems to have its own natural way with things, and it goes back and forth. And that's just kind of the map in a whole. Now, Rogue are trying to clear their way into admin office. Pochaman is the one in a position to stop this, along with Mint and Adam on the far side, playing over by that small kitchen or cafeteria, if you will. And they're trying to support this Jaeger, who has got at least 1 ADS to help him.
He's in a very good position to just hold on and push back against the rising tide, but through the debris in the window, Mojo tries to take out and very brazenly will fight a glass. Ends up hitting most of Brian, and Geo is able to scare him off with a couple choice shots towards that window. They've fallen off of admins. They won't bother to push admin. They figure that Pojo is too much of an adversary in there, or at least too much of an obstacle for them to overcome. You've also got the Mira playing, as well as the castle in there. And that's Adam. So it does appear that they will push over towards the console office, and you can see SK Gaming will rearrange their chips on the board as well.
Now, that mirror window inside of Connector is easily thwarted if you simply repel one player on the Connector window, but it also exposes that player to anyone running out from SK on the south side. Of course, there are a lot of run-out options on that side of the building. But it is something that Rogue is going to have to consider, because they rotated off of admin take because of the mirror window that was facing towards admin, and now they have to face yet another one. Brian going to be the player to disable this one. He's going to choose to do so from the mirror window. Mint going to try and adjust. Conscious of this now, goes for the pre-fire, hits it. Hot and cold, also got Geo elsewhere, and another one for SK as Pojo Man gets eclipsed, pushing up those yellow stairs. Now Rogue struggling in this round, but they will finally commit to their push. Candles and smokes go out. Mint gets Slash Hook as he repels in, and Houghton gets easily. That's a perfect round for SK. Not a single life lost.
They just absolutely clobbered them. The Monty looked lost on the stairs, couldn't get in time. The Glass really didn't have much of a recourse. Brian was taken out on that Connector window, dispatched by Mint, and SK manages to answer back after losing round number 1. Now, Garage and Cafeteria is where Rogue is going to go, and that will mean that in 3 rounds we have seen every single site being played, and surely Slash is not going to actually lock this in, but no, he is. So they're going to use a joint roaming combo of Vigil and Caveira.
Cav, an operator not often seen in the Pro League, though she does see some play here and there. There are a couple weeks that have gone by in many different seasons where she's had a 0% pick rate, though, so something to keep in mind. She's right up there with, well, Tachanka. And as an operator, her utility is not useful, really, at all, at this level of play, but her pistol is something to be feared. 2 shots at most ranges. If you're within 10 meters of a cav, you lose that fight almost all the time.
You lose that battle.
5
That battle
seconds
9
left
times out
before
of 10.
insertion.
Now, with Cav, a lot of people have asked, and a lot of people wonder why she doesn't see a lot of usage in the Pro League. It's because it's the utility. You bring operators most of the time to try and have gadgets that will help the team.
Yeah.
Caveira gives you a short burst of information on where the defenders are, but that relies on you being able to take advantage of a straggler or an entry going in by themselves, or somebody who doesn't drone effectively.
Yeah.
Cav thrives on that chaos and lack of coordination. If you can drone her out, it's fairly easy to pinch Cav. She is not well equipped to take multiple enemies in a gunfight, especially from separate angles.
And the thing is, there are so very few teams at this level of play that don't drone everything before they push it. And as we've been seeing in this match, quite clearly, every single attack is mostly pretty well droned. Adam, very nice angle to set up there onto Eclipse, will hit the headshot. That's the Vigil who's playing in the site, going down very early in this attack. Yeah, I mean, it's the droning, plus it's the uselessness of the Cav utility overall. C4, though, will get, I believe, one of the Candelas, or the last one comes out to blind that Mira, and that's a pretty easy kill there for Mint. Well-coordinated push from SK. They now have control over small office, and they're going to start to use it. The mirror window has been opened up. A lot of missed shots there from Mint. Hot and Cold, though, going to get slashed, and Rogue really falling apart at the seams here. Gio gets a double kill, though, trying to bring it back. That's all the way from the front of White. Brian has been detected by the EE1D, but somehow manages to cling on to life, and there's still lots of time left in this round. See Brian trying to deny the plant, and he has done so, forcing Mint on that Ying to rotate. But as you see Gio pushing up to the doorway, he's going to get taken down from Mint in that small office. It's all Brian now. EE1D popping off yet again, but Brian from Yellow Stairs will eat the bullets from Hot and Cold, and that's it. SK well-coordinated attack from those locker hallways.
I was wondering why SK wasn't going for the plant inside of cafeteria there, inside of the kitchen. And it was Gio who comes in and saves the day, but oh my. SK has now swung this game in favor of them.
Decidedly.
Decidedly. So lobby is where we're going to see SK go this time around, and we will head back to the very first site that we saw on Consulate.
We have not seen the same 2 bomb sites in a row yet on Consulate. It's been magic or musical chairs really on this map. Which, I mean, if you're gonna pick a map to do it on,
it's not a bad one.
Not a bad one.
So Min, who have been having a good day already, will continue that. Otten will jump up as well. As for the rest of SK, they'll need to iron out their differences with their fragging potential and climb up to help the rest of the team if SK Gaming wants to continue on the path that they are on right now. How torturous would it be for SK Gaming if they were to win Consulate and come that close on border with that one miscue potentially costing a better chance at 2-0ing Rogue? That is...
I mean, if they lose, if they win here and go to the 3rd map and lose there, then that would be about the worst feeling. But if they, you know, they could still win this out 2-0 from here on out. I mean, 2-1 of course overall, but they could pull that off. You know, they've been playing really well. You have to give, again, seriously mad props to SK because, you know, it's not so long ago that SK was a team that was not even playing in Pro League. They really, no, excuse me, I'm mistaken, but they weren't playing so well. I mean, they weren't the Titan of old. I believe it was Mint in the interview who was actually talking about this, you know. He was saying, yeah, I mean, we want to prove that we can be a Titan again, and they really were. In the beginning of the North American scene, they were one of the pioneering teams. They were up there, #1, #2 slot, and they have seen a little bit of a drop-off as of late. So them coming back really strong and fierce in this season, it's very impressive.
They were known as Flipside for so long, and
yeah.
F3, as they were called, Flipside strats was something that was entered into a lot of players' vocabulary due to the fact that they would make certain sites that weren't seen as particularly viable, at least usable. A good example is Kitchen Bakery on Cafe Dostoevsky, or Cash upstairs in Clubhouse, sites that you don't really see a lot of play on for good reason, but Flipside would at least give it a whirl now, of course, playing under SK Gaming, and they have had a bit of a precipitous slide. They went from land to almost land, and oh no, easily sees the smoke, and Pojo completely exposed to that window in console office. Thermite dispatches the smoke with 90 seconds left, so they won't have to fear the fact that there are no remote gas canisters to deny a push in the dying seconds of a round or even enable a rotate. Now Eclipse is just going to come right in, and Adam doesn't have much of a chance either. He gets taken out downstairs, and that'll give an advantage of Rogue to 2, as they've lost both the Bandit and the smoke from SK Gaming.
So Pojo and Adam early in this round trying to continue that slide, as he said. As they start to sink down, Eclipse is going to get his second for the round. Mint and Jarvis Houghton now the last 2 defenders. The Diffuser has been planted. Houghton's going to get Geo, but that's just going to leave Jarvis as he gets downed. Looking for the kill on the player on the window, but from behind, Eclipse his third. And that's it, the first round that Rogue has managed to get on attack.
And Jarvis just no real chance there. At that point, Rogue had enough bodies up to just be able to watch that Diffuser from a multitude of angles, and that's exactly what you saw. Didn't really matter. His retake was going to be far too difficult.
Yeah, too many bodies really on the attacking side. You know, there's clutches that can happen in situations like that, but it's mostly down to the enemy team making a lot of mistakes, and clearly Rogue was just not in the place where they wanted to make any more mistakes, at least not after losing those 2 rounds. Now, even 2 for both teams, and this seems like it's a bit of a continuation of Border, where it's a little bit back and forth.
Oh my, SK's lineup, this is gonna hurt. They've got 2 shield operators, a Finka, Lion,
no.
and an Ash.
Oh no.
No hard breachers.
So you think they're gonna rush?
I'd say that's a pretty fair guess.
Yeah.
Probably a rush strat into whichever site they think. I would imagine that we're gonna see it go in through the kitchen area, just because of the fact that, hey, you can't really go in through the garage because you can't blow up those garage walls.
Actually, Marsu was just trying to point out there on the drop down in Visa, the reason you would bring something like an Ash is because you open that drop down, you rush down the hallway, you're in kitchen, ta-da! That might be what we see. So I don't know. It all comes down to where SK Gaming spawn. I mean, they could also not rush. There's a potential for that, though it does seem like this is the lineup to rush with. Kind of curious that we have an Ash instead of a Zofia. I mean, it's the more speed to help your potential rush, but also you're looking at 2 shield operators, which are going to slow that down quite a lot no matter what you do. And it doesn't look like it's going to be a rush strat either. So yeah, again, Ash instead of Zofia. Kind of not exactly in the meta right now.
Could potentially be a rush strat that takes a little while to get into place, and then from that point,
Delayed rush?
A delayed rush.
Yeah.
And Pojo running the LMG on Finka. This is all kinds of bonkers right now as we wait to see what SK has in store. I have a feeling Rogue, if they pick this one apart, we're not going to see much of anything, as I have a suspicion that this is the kind of push that when it falls apart, it really falls apart. Yeah. And you can see that the Finka boost hits, and Mint will take 1 breath of that smoke, and look at that sizable portion of health that he will lose, all due to that. Having that Finka boost, of course, makes the smoke effect that much more deadly. Eclipse is in a position now where he can just waltz out through this front door and take out somebody from SK, but he will be frozen in place by one of the E1Ds. But no, Rogue answers with 2 of their own. Slash and Geo taking out Jarvis and Mint Mint taking out Brian, though, as Houghton now eliminates Geo. Easily takes out Houghton, and it is 2v3. It's only Pojo and Adam left, your Finka and your Ash, and no, SK could not really get much out of this, but Adam takes out Eclipse as he gets pushed on the yellow stairs. There's 1 more coming for him. Easily takes out Pojo downstairs, and it's all up to Adam, who will need to just simply have better reflexes right now as he faces down 2 members of the defense. Easily has very little health, though. Adam does not hold the diffuser. He will need to go and retrieve it, on which Slash is sitting tantalizingly close to. Flash will go out inside of kitchen, and Slash just waiting to see if he can pick apart Adam, but it's Easily who gets it instead. And they take a gamble on a strategy that might not have been the best choice overall, but one that could have been exciting to watch unfold. Unfortunately for us, not much unfolding to do, as Rogue is a pretty good read on it and is able to shut it down.
It was the fact that they got aggressive. They decided not to let SK Gaming set themselves up to execute. Now, SK Gaming tried to recover by quickly pushing in through those yellow stairs, but it just wasn't enough, thanks to the fact that that mirror window inside of the small office, or security as some people call it, was so effective at delaying the push. So overall, an interesting choice there from SK, just a better pick apart from Rogue. Now, top floor going to be, I believe, our next defense here. You can see Houghton really hot today, it seems. Jarvis has yet to get a frag on this map. He's been struggling a little bit.
He and Pojo have not had the games that they need from SK in order to keep this competitive, though it is still relatively competitive. They are only down by 1 round at the moment, despite the fact that SK's leaderboard is a bit top-heavy. We'll see if that can change, and they can change course correction for the 2 players on SK Gaming. Gaming is believing. We'll see if they believe in that themselves, as SK's motto would say.
You know what's kind of interesting is SK has probably one of the most individually skilled players on Cafe on their roster. That's of course Hot and Cold. Every time we've seen Hot and Cold go to Cafe, he pops off. He drops, you know, something like 15 kills. And yet, the strategy, the level of play from Rogue as a team overall on Cafe as of late is so good, so high, that SK saw fit to ban out Cafe against their opponent in this match. So a good read there, I would say, from SK. You know, probably go with what strategically makes sense rather than what individually makes sense.
Absolutely.
But that's the level of respect that SK has for Rogue's Cafe play.
Team effort usually trumps individual skill, as you said, and Cafe is one of Rogue's best maps, and Rogue might be one of the most proficient teams. Now, Rogue having a lot of difficulty with their drones at the moment, as Gravity is proving to be a very formidable nemesis. They finally managed to get one inside of the bathroom, and now Eclipse is going to go up. The last time that Rogue was on attack, the biggest issue that SK struggled with was they allowed entries to win their one-on-one fights, and Rogue was just simply coming in and then winning their fight and taking that engagement, and they did it on 2 separate occasions, and it really hurt SK. You'll see one grenade from Eclipse goes out, but there's nobody playing behind them. You're in real danger whatsoever. It's Geo on the Ying this time around, and very notably, he has the 612. That's the shotgun. Obviously channeling Hungry, the German player from 1UP, who has made that shotgun look so good.
Hungry is an absolutely exceptional Ying player, and imitating him honestly makes a lot of sense. Here comes those Candelas and smokes. The push finally in, and the plant as well. Easily will successfully get it down, it seems. Eclipse will die in the process, though. Slash responds into Jarvis on yellow stairs. Geo still alive, but 3 for SK, leaving Brian now the single attacker, and he's being run out on. It's all over. SK clutch it out, even after the plant. The Claymore's not really going to matter. Min's still in a position to hit that diffuser.
Defenders disabled the diffuser.
And SK Gaming will take that round. Very well defended, just waiting things out. Rogue not able to get those picks that they got in previous rounds. Eclipse trying to push in through the bathroom window instead of coming up from below. Last time we saw Eclipse entry through the garage and then move his way up yellow stairs, and he got 3 kills along the way.
Once again, these teams unable to shake each other. We could find ourselves in a situation where, you know, the SK and Mouse situation, where how close those 2 maps were despite it being a 2-0, and you think, oh, well, that's obviously very definitive. This could potentially also end up being a 6-5, and if it's in favor of Rogue, the scoreline's going to say 2-0, but it's not really going to tell the whole tale that both of these were so close, and right now they just can't shake each other for that push. Rogue just didn't seem to have their pieces lined up after the plant went down, and SK just pushed back and were able to sweep them off of the site itself.
It was that post-plant retake strategy that we've seen be so prevalent as of late. I mean, it really plays into the fact that you've got so much disruption on the attack that you have to avoid it.
Yes, it's been an odd map and a half for these 2 teams, as retakes that look like they shouldn't be retaken are happening. Plants that shouldn't be going down are going down. Plants that should be going down are not. And it's just all over the board. Has been, honestly, a very entertaining matchup between 2 teams that I think are a lot more evenly matched than some spectators and viewers at home would potentially say, and I think the community vote showed as well.
Absolutely. I mean, these 2 teams, you know, as I talked about earlier, they go way, way, way back, and there's been a lot of roster changes. This isn't the same team, or the same 2 teams of old, not absolutely, but there's still quite a lot of people here. I mean, these players definitely know each other really, really well. And I'd say that they have gone toe-to-toe with each other many times in the past. But in the most recent is the important, and right now an even contest on Consulate. As you say earlier, neither team able to shake each other. So it seems like SK are going to try and take control over admin. It doesn't look like Rogue are contesting it at all. They do have roamers upstairs. over on the far west side, but no immediate threat here to Adam. Gonna clear out the castle barricade, waiting for his teammate to move his drone. That's Mint, and Pojo Man refills that spot of the drone, and more waiting for Adam, for his teammates to move their drones. As you said earlier in the previous round, Rogue, their main adversary, of course, Gravity. In this case, miscoordination on the drone game.
I mean, at least the drone economy, or your drone economy for SK is smart.
Yes.
In the sense that they keep trying to save them because they know how valuable they can be. So the last time that Rogue attacked lobby, or the last time rather that SK attacked lobby and Rogue defended, their biggest issue was they couldn't clear out the second floor. Geo was allowed to stay from above. He got 3 kills without much pressure on him whatsoever. Jarvis is going to eliminate Slash, though. That is your Echo down, and that is a very high priority pick. It's a valuable target to eliminate first and foremost. Now, you still have the smoke as well. One is spotted inside of the bathroom, but Eclipse at the top of Yellow Stairs beheads Adam, understanding the read and keeping his teammates safe. It's unwise for SK to re-peek that just in case there's somebody from Rogue positioned in that angle. And you can see just on the right side of your screen that they were, but Geo will fall off, and now the castle of Eclipse, who had gotten that kill, falls further down the stairs.
You can see it's going to be a play from below. You've got Easily all the way downstairs along with Eclipse. Now, Easily has used his C4, but he's going to be able to at least call information once that push happens. The attack now finally starting to set up that push. Geo will thwart Hot and Cold's initial entry. That's the Lion. Very important kill as the last possible EE1D in this round is detonated. Though, the diffuser is being planted. We see this yet again. Is there anyone to stop it? That's the question. No. Mint gets Geo. A down for Jarvis and a finish off, but Eclipse there to refrag. Now 2 versus 2. And in connector, Mint, great positioning there, catches Eclipse off guard. It's all Brian against Mint and Pojo. Goes for the run out, but there's no attackers outside. He's checking something that doesn't exist. Actually, no, on the concrete wall. That's Pojo Man on the far angle. Trying to fight Brian. He's got detection, but he's somehow not finishing off Brian. This is so scary. What is happening, Pojo? Both on 1 HP. Brian could win it, but it doesn't happen. Pojo locks it out in a very confusing engagement. But SK will win the round, and that's the important thing.
The amount of interesting engagements we have seen. I mean, I feel like a broken record constantly bringing it up, but Pojo able to get that plant off. Nobody even bothers to think about it. He's inside of the main lobby. There's nobody there watching. There's nobody at the hatch. I mean, the plant takes 7 seconds. It goes down successfully. Brian, who appears to be out to lunch, standing, watching the window, expecting a push through the main doors. Meanwhile, inches away, many centimeters for those who use the metric system, away, the plant goes down, and there's nobody to stop it. Pojo's able to get outside. What on earth? And now SK Gaming is on match point.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as
many bombs
as they can.
Let's talk about that then. The plant denial for Rogue in that round were 2 different things. They had the Echo drone, the Yokai, of course, and they had the pulse underneath. Now, for those of you who don't know, through the drop downs in the main lobby, you can hit a C4 where Pojo Man just planted that diffuser. It's possible. It's a long shot, but it's very possible. Mostly from the one to the right, the little closet drop down. That'll get you more distance as closer to the door. Now, that said, Easily had already used his C4 way earlier in the round. I'm not sure what happened there, but that plant denial just didn't exist. Then the Echo died, the first operator to die for the defense, so that plant denial didn't exist. Now your last form of plant denial is somebody to rush the front door, and there was just nobody in position for some reason. They didn't choose to commit to a... So they entered into that post-plant situation. Then once Rogue started trying to retake the top floor, they hiccuped quite a lot. They had a lot of instances where the only reason they were getting kills coming back upstairs were refrags. So just overall, a very inefficient hold from Rogue, and some very particular things that caused them to lose in that they lost that plant denial.
So, my big focus going into this is to see, is there going to be an early kill? Cannot allow Rogue to be able to entry frag the same way and win their gunfights. You just cannot do it. Hot tries to take out the Ying, who is playing beneath the window inside a piano, and he'll miss his shots, looking to see if there's anybody who's going to expose themselves. He leans the wrong way, and that center mass will be shown as Brian's drone goes through the main lobby trying to determine if there's anybody playing. That actual hallway to the left is called the antechamber. It'll pop up if that drone skirts over the line, but it gets so close not to show you whatsoever. They'll burn one of the ADSs, and now Houghton needs to find himself the ability to get back towards the main lobby. He'll get severely concussed, waiting to see if the Thermite of Easily can see him, and they're just going to ping him relentlessly on a drone. Easily goes for the pre-fire to see if from above he can make this work, and they're just going to continue to ping Houghton. They're wasting a lot of time to do this, and they are not being successful in taking him out. Meanwhile, Houghton is doing his job perfectly, holding them off, and he'll get a kill as now Pojo takes out Easily, and SK finds themselves in a 5v3 with a minute and a half to go.
And the Ying also not available, probably the most important operator, but Eclipse will get Pojo Man upstairs. Doesn't seem like he's conscious of Mid's position though at the top of Spiral Stairs, so this could be an easy refrag for SK. They've been playing a lot of these angle games, just waiting it out, but Eclipse is gonna check, not able to get it initially, and oh, loses that fight. Houghton elsewhere with a double kill. SK Gaming take map number 2, and we will move to map number 3, Oregon.
Who would have thought? And now this is when you're SK, you have to go into Oregon knowing that if Mint just had killed that Twitch that was prone on the floor, that you probably could have won this in a 2-0, or at least come a lot closer, forcing that fight in a 1v1 against Geo. So, pretty astonishing right now. So Rogue wins SK's map. SK wins Rogue's map in a more commanding fashion, hot and cold, and Min is having one incredible performance so far today. He broke 10 frags on Border, he breaks 10 frags again on Consulate. They're gonna need that out of him on Oregon as we head in, and this is anybody's game at this point.
I mean, Min looked poised in the interview, and now he looks poised in the actual matches. He is focused and ready, but of course, it's more than just his effort. It's the entire team. They're all putting together some pretty awesome play. That last round, we saw the aggression really pay out for them, trying to contest the windows. Those 2 initial kills came on players who were repelling, trying to find the defenders. But I guess aggression begets aggression, and it managed to go in the favor of SK. They won those fights, and that's all that really matters.
And really a masterful play by Houghton, playing in between the 2 sites. The big thing for him was not only did he kill almost half of the round in terms of time management, he also ended up with 3 kills. So killing more than half of the team, as well as more than half of the round, really successful, and he's got to take your MVP for that round. And I believe he also was MVP for the game too, if I recall correctly, seeing that scoreboard for a brief moment at the end. Now, going into Oregon, a site that, or rather a scene of which we understand how teams are going to play it, but one of the biggest changes to Oregon has been that the laundry room downstairs is by no means the preferred site anymore, due to the fact that Blitz is played a lot more often and thrives on that site. Lion makes it very difficult for you to rotate to stop the plant. How much does this impact these 2 teams going against each other? And honestly, what we've seen today, what are we looking at going into map number 3?
I have no predictions to site selection, to be honest with you. I mean, from other regions, we've been seeing a lot of teams actually choosing to actively go down to the basement of Oregon, despite it being by most I mean, from what we've been seeing, it's just not a great site to defend. So it's entirely possible we're probably going to see a lot of, well, obviously we're going to see basement. There's only 2 sites that are commonly defended, though. We have seen Kitchen.
We have.
We saw a little bit of Kitchen on Oregon, which was interesting.
And don't put it past SK to be a team that goes to Kitchen.
Bingo. I think if any team is going to bring us to Kitchen, it would probably be SK. So that would be really cool if we managed to see some Kitchen play on this map. But overall, this has been a very interesting is the word, interesting series. Perplexing as well. It's a good word to use to describe it. It's a fun one to watch. I'll say that.
It has been intriguing with the way that things have gone back and forth. And I mean, from a casting perspective, it's been very interesting because the action starts and stops and starts and stops, and it's so hard to tell when the next round and the next wave is going to come inside of the actual rounds itself. And I think that these teams are definitely feeling it. There's momentum that is literally being lost and regained in the middle of a round by each other.
It's like SK will start a push, and they'll get 2 entries, and then, wow, a 3K for one of the players on Rogue, and suddenly it's going all the way, and then SK will win the round by getting the plant down, which, how does that happen? And then just playing the post plant. And there's been a lot of that. It's been for both teams. You know, teams are interchangeable in that scenario as well. So it's been a very interesting one. That's for sure. It seems like if I'm gonna just look at it from outside, just looking at it, these two teams are on different wavelengths. They're doing different things. They're playing similarly, but their pacing is totally separate.
Just the sheer amount of mistakes that these teams have made. The fact that there are a lot of mistakes being made, and they're not really being punished. A lot of them are not being punished by other teams. They're being punished by the clock.
Or themselves.
Or themselves. And that's just, both of those things are very rare to have. It's very rare to see mistakes go unpunished, and it's very rare to see this many mistakes in general. And it's, I don't know, it's very difficult to tell now. Are these teams not practiced? Are they not prepared? Are they over prepared on fighting each other? What is the reason for why this stuff is happening? And I don't know if we're going to have a suitable answer for that, no matter what happens on Oregon, because I have a feeling we're probably going to go to overtime. And speaking of which, we'll see if that's true as we load into Oregon. Map number 3 with the playoffs on the line between these two. Who's going to make it?
You know, if nothing else, this match has been fun.
Oh, it's been very fun.
Definitely fun, the operative word. So, will we see any mix-ups on site selection for Oregon, or will it be more of the same? Rogue going to choose to go to kids' dorms, the expected pick right out the gate on defense.
This is a similar composition that SK ran on border to bulldoze their way in up top. There's just no glass. Instead, a sledge has been brought in, and Mint, who had been playing the glass, will go instead to the Ying. So some role jostling between the members of the team and then the new addition of Sledge.
Sledge, an operator who I don't want to say sees less. I mean, he sees a slightly less play than in previous seasons, but not because he's fallen off in his usefulness. I think it's just other teams, or teams bringing things like Ying, Lion, and Dokkaebi in the SK Gaming's case. I mean, you don't often, obviously, Lion's the new operator, but even in the past, you don't see a lot of Dokkaebi being paired up with Ying. I mean, you saw it once or twice, but it was an operator that wasn't considered useful until Lion came out, where you can pair them up and kind of combo them together.
Especially Jackal. Jackal and Lion together on any form of map with lots of destructibility is almost a death sentence for defenders, because you are being tracked one way or another. There isn't much room for you to be able to get away from one another.
I mean, if you're hit by a Jackal and there's an EE1D popping off, you are a dead man for the most part, unless you're in full hard cover. And that's so dangerous, that expectation. I mean, if you're a roamer, that's often not the case. But doesn't look like it's going to influence Rogue in this round, as they are playing a very conservative roam, simply down in the kitchen, which is, as you know, if you've ever watched Oregon played out, a very common position for the defenders to hold.
The most recent time that I can think of Rogue playing on this map in actual Pro League play outside of a LAN was when they played against the team known as Infamy, who are Mouse, who will be coming up after this matchup concludes, and they actually lost on this map to Infamy at the time. And part of that was that they relied very heavily on Slash and Eclipse into a dual roam, while the rest of the site wasn't able to hold on as well as they wanted. And the moment they lost somebody early, it became too tough for them to claw back.
Yeah, and now you can see Geo going to be one of the players to go into that roam, playing down in the kitchen with his Mira. Now, speaking of which, the Mira window has been opened up thanks to Hot and Cold, very proficiently pushing his way into cafeteria and disabling it early on. I say early. Now, we are halfway through this round already, but there's a good amount of control in hand of SK Gaming. The only problem is their only way that they're going to push into the site is via those white stairs and the main west window, which is extremely dangerous. Now, you see that Adam has been downed elsewhere. I'm not entirely sure how. It looks like he may have just fallen, because I don't think he was ever engaged. This probably was a mistake. It doesn't look like an intentional reset, given that there were no teammates near him, but that's going to cost SK Gaming quite a lot of time, regardless of the circumstances surrounding the down. They have been stalled out as well on that main west window. As you can see, the gas canisters starting to see use. Rogue trying to retake the bottom floor.
They've got two crawled up by that reinforced wall of bathroom. Now the phone's ringing off will give them an awareness that there's somebody there. One Candela goes off. That should at least blind somebody, but no. Eclipse takes one and Slash takes another. They waited too long for that Candela to activate. Rogue with a huge volley as Brian claims Houghton and Jarvis, and as Adam takes out Brian, he gets felled by the goo mine at the top of white stairs, and Rogue takes round number 1. And you can see the riveting gameplay from Easily just waiting as his traps do it themselves.
Outskilled. Absolutely great trap placement, I suppose. And more importantly, Brian with a double kill on that west window right before the smokes popped and were able to cover the ingress. And then downstairs, that retake from the Valkyrie and the Jaeger. Well done.
I cannot believe that SK was not able to get towards the site that much quicker. They just weren't able to put enough pressure on it. I mean, I think Rogue saw that clock. I think Rogue saw that clock coming down, and by doing so, they were able to realize, hey, we have a lot of opportunity. We can retake map control with 40 seconds left. Let's do it. And it paid off.
So, now SK's turn to defend the top floor after a successful defense from Rogue. Now, Rogue has brought quite a lot of disruption. I keep saying, but I mean, that's what these operators are. You talk about Capital, you talk about Lion, you talk about Zofia. These are disruption operators. I could argue for Lion also being an information operator, but just in general, that's what Rogue is bringing here. The Capital, most notable pick, as we don't often see him in this current meta. Interesting thing about that is the fact that he actually saw a buff recently, and he sees less play now in the Lion meta than he did prior.
Looks like Slash is also bringing an angled grip on that, assuming that they're going to use Capitao to somewhat of a degree as an entry fragger, trying to take those close engagements. That's why you would bring that angled grip, just so you can ADS quicker and not have to worry about holding angles or fighting from afar. They'll drone out the back tower and see that there's nobody at the top whatsoever. There's one playing at the bottom. They'll survey the attic to see if anybody's there, but no, right now not. Both teams, of course, going with mid storms. That is the most common sight now since things have changed, at least with Lion. You don't want to potentially risk losing it on the bottom floor. In fact, we've seen teams actually lose matches because of their inability to adjust and adapt going to the bottom floor too many times has proven to be their downfall.
I think the longest streak we've seen is 3 in a row. As you can see, Capital's para now has little to no recoil. Of course, you have to attribute some to Slashug's excellent recoil management, but equally high damage rifle, very little recoil, and that's going to aid him quite a lot in engagements to come. Now, Geo trying to hit a nade onto the mark. He does successfully. Well done. Adam goes down. Good communication there from Rogue, marking and following up with the grenade.
And they've swapped Pojo and Adam's roles as well. You've got Pojo now on the mirror and Adam playing the smoke. That wouldn't have been as valuable if that had been a mirror that was eliminated, but it's the smoke instead. And I don't think we can stress enough just how crucial a smoke is in the final 30 to 40 seconds of a round, especially on a site like this, where you can essentially choke off every single way that they can push in and make it so they have to basically fight their way through the haze.
We only have, I believe, one anchor really right now, and that is the Jaeger, who is trying to dance around and look for positions, but the C4 from below, 2 different ones see success. Downstairs, easily going to detect Pojo as he moves and get that kill. Min will refrag, though, onto Eclipse, and Rogue, only 2 players left alive, easily downstairs. Geo all the way over by tower. Not some great positioning right now from Rogue. And with the man disadvantage, it's going to hurt them quite a lot. Diffuser has been down. It looks like at the top of White Stairs, possibly, next to the actual bomb itself on the A site. And that's going to force these attackers to retake onto it.
Houghton poised for a potential flank. He can walk up those White Stairs where the Lion is playing. That Lion will now just be pure fragging power as he has no gadget available for him. Houghton will get that easily as, well, rather Jarvis takes it, but Geo 2 of his own as Jarvis and Mint go down, and that'll push them in a 1v1 with 15 seconds. Houghton has the information available for him. He does not have a nitro cell. It had been used earlier on to get a kill, but there will be a 7-second plant. He'll stick it, and this should be an easy finish for Houghton, who will just tear through the floor at Geo. Oh, he can't finish it off! Unfortunately for him, but Houghton manages to come up the stairs, pushes, gets the kill onto Geo, and he will tie it up at 1 apiece. Houghton narrowly winning that round, almost tossing it away, and that would have been a heartbreaking story for SK to find themselves down by 2 this early on.
Very close there. Houghton, oof, taking it by the skin of his teeth, that's for sure, but manages to win it, and that's the important thing. So far, we've seen 2 successful defenses, both on the top floor. And this is going to be our first rotation of bomb site. Now, this is where it's liable to turn into an attacker-sided affair. As you see, Yet again, a Dokkaebi Lion Ying combination coming out from the attackers.
Attackers need to locate and defuse
And that's
bombs.
going to be SK. So they move themselves into this round. They have all the utensils they need to adequately assault this bottom floor.
And they know there's just...
I mean, they have options too. They could come from the base or the construction tunnel. They've got that sledge to open up the soft walls that are almost always left on the north side of the construction tunnel wall. They also have enough utility to open up the actual reinforced walls that are currently on the east side of the box. But you know, they've got their choices.
Did you touch upon the fact that this is the exact same composition they used? Yeah, so it's... I'm very hesitant to say that we're going to see SK Gaming rush again. It really depends on where they all spawn from. If we see a lot of bodies over in construction, and they're all in construction.
There it is. But they're not rushing. This is interesting. They're taking it slow. They're checking for spawn peaks, looking for their options, but it's clearly going to be a construction take. I think that's pretty obvious.
Or at least the back stairs. They're probably going to push, I would imagine, inside of that meeting hall. And you can see from our wonderful aerial view how everybody is lining up at the moment. It was Slash's Echo who will fall off and drop back downstairs into the comfort and safety of that bottom floor.
You take control over tower, you take control over meeting hall, then you push in through construction. It's just a tiered offensive, and it seems like it's going to work pretty well for SK should they execute it with no issues, because they're going to be able to get control of attic, which has been opened up by the defenders early on. Once they have control over attic, they effectively have control by proxy over meeting hall.
Adam looking to see if there was anybody up there. They had detected earlier on that Slash was inside a meeting hall, and Adam, a swing and a miss. He'll go for a pre-fire, but nobody downstairs. You can hear the silenced MP5 of Slash trying to do some damage. And look at Rogue, they've completely fallen off, and they are using their setup as a means of keeping the attackers away from their position. They're falling back, and wow, what a shot from Slash as Houghton has no chance. That's Hibana down, and that is a lot of utility that will be lost for SK.
The only hard destructor for SK Gaming, which means that they have very limited options. Now, luckily for them, the meeting hall drop-downs, I believe, are unreinforced or opened up, so they will be able to at least utilize those.
Slash loses the yokai, meaning that he will just simply go for frags now, as his ability to save a final minute push is gone.
The 1D popping off, and easily will be downed and finished off in the process. Adam gets responded onto. A double impact from Eclipse is going to get that kill.
Gotta catch them all.
Gotta catch them all, and Adam now in the collection of Eclipse.
So there's an advantage of Rogue by 1. It's a 4v3 with a minute to go. They've only lost their castle on defense. As for SK Gaming, you've lost Hibana, which will definitely impact your ability to get onto site, and Sledge too, which means that those castle barricades can breathe a little easier knowing there's no grenades, there's no X-Kairos, and there's no Sledgehammer, or Journey's End as it's called, in order to open those up. Instead, they're going to have to rely on the Ying to be the main push for them. You can hear the suppressed MP5 once again of Echo, and what a shot from Jarvis! Oh my, Slash loses his head, and they just go inside of Pill. Geo inside of the middle of smoke. We'll have to see if a plant is going down, and it's Jarvis holding on to it, who doesn't appear to be going for a plant. It's finished off by Brian, and they're going to have to get the plant. Geo gets shredded, though, as they trade. Jarvis will drop that diffuser, and as Pojo sprints into the site, Rogue is able to hold on. Brian reads that and takes Pojo down, giving Rogue the lead once again, and back and forth we go.
And what has not seen success so far on Oregon?
Attack.
We haven't seen a single attacker victory yet. It's been just defense-sided so far. Rogue now going to have their chance attacking onto what we're going to guess is the basement, but as we talked about earlier, SK, they like to mix things up. Nope, looks like they're going to go down laundry. All right, SK.
As untenable as I think laundry has become due to the way that changes have been made to the meta due to what we see now for attacking compositions, and the fact that as of, I think last week, something like attackers had like a 63% win rate last week, or 62% win rate, or somewhere in that insane number. I still don't think you risk it on defending back tower or in kitchen. I don't. As much as you might think that the defense of laundry supply room is too much of a struggle, the other options are so much worse.
I mean, we just saw successful defense of the basement from Rogue, so it's totally achievable. SK Gaming could make this work, and we should not forget bottom floor cafe
5 seconds remaining.
Oh my.
from back in the day. And
Especially-
I think it's worth noting that they clearly have learned.
Yeah, I was going to say, and
Attacker's
especially
objective is to locate a bomb and defuse it.
Cash Room and SK going up there twice as well. I don't think they were successful there either.
You know,
so-
we've talked about the innovative nature of SK Gaming as being one of their, their traits, but it's not necessarily a strong suit in all manner. It sometimes holds them back, and we've seen them lose matches because they choose to go to sites that are less than desirable. So I would say that their decision to stick with what they know, yes, please, more of that.
So Rogue is coming into tower stairs now, and they've got control over that area, but we'll have to confront the fact that Attic is reinforced. They will expend some of those X-Karos. Their only Heart Breacher is a Hibana. There's no Thermite available for them. What a shot from Hot and Cold as Brian loses his head on those back stairs. And speaking of only Heart Breacher, for the second round in a row, Hibana will be the first to fall from both teams. So now Brian down means that you will now have to rely on the soft destruction only.
And the Hibana died in the same position both times around the same time. So kind of a little bit of a mimic there.
1E, 1D will go off, and nobody is bothering to move the intended effect, as Rogue now trying to pressure Meeting Hall itself. Slash goes for a shot through that attic hatch above Meeting Hall, but cannot land his shots. And we use the phrase stalled out quite a bit. Not quite there yet, but we are fastly approaching that territory. The site is downstairs, and they still have pressure in Meeting Hall that they have not been able to take care of.
To be fair, on Oregon, we've seen the fastest and most efficient attack rounds in this match overall, I would say. We saw some serious struggle for attackers on border in terms of time management. It started to get better on Consulate, and then on Oregon now it seems to be very, very efficient.
A bomb has been located.
This is one of the slower rounds. Now, Rogue still has a chance here. They haven't been able to inch out that control of Meeting, and Attic is also well in hand of SK because Rogue chose not to use their Habanas, X-Karos on that position. Oh, what an angle from the mute. That's going to get Slashug all the way from Attic. Well done to use his C4 to establish that angle, but here comes the push. EE1Ds pop off, easily downed in the hallway. Eclipse and Geo, the last two. Geo manages to get one. Eclipse will be also still alive, and he gets Jarvis. Here comes the mirror, though. Pojo Man coming around the corner, leaving Eclipse with just his pistol out. He gets a nice headshot, but he's got to find two more, and with little to no ammo, only 12 bullets in the pistol, and forced to plant, it's not going to happen. Hot and Cold with the retake. That's those two roamers over by Attic and Meeting Hall, really, I think being the deciding factor in that round, easily.
I'm a bit surprised with how strong the attack is on this site from the main lobby, that both teams have decided to go through construction and push through supply room rather than through the laundry room itself. Because it seems like every successful attack tends to come from that main lobby. You take the hatch, you freeze everybody in place, you put some pressure on the mirror, you have a Capitao. You have a perfect opportunity to put a fire arrow down, stop them from being able to move out, pop the EE1D and get a plant. But both of these teams on attack, instead of going with the one system that does seem to be working so effectively, they make the job a little harder for themselves attacking from the other side.
You know, I wouldn't say everyone comes from the main lobby, but I'd say easily 80%. 80% of the wins on the attacks that are coming downstairs, they're coming, it's the main lobby. You're opening that drop, you're laying down some smokes, you're using your disruption, and you're planting. And that is the strategy. And we do see successful pushes from construction. It's just, it always seems like it's a bit closer of a call, more of a risk, and
10 seconds left.
you know, I think that just has to do with the mentality of the teams, right? Something that we don't get to see is what they do in scrims. And inside of scrims, often you see very different results from what actually happens in Pro League. And there's an entire different meta. There's an entire different way everything's being played out because you're experimenting. You're trying to find new stuff. And sometimes, I suppose, it's possible in scrims that your construction takes are going to be much more efficient, that they're going to work better for you, seem cleaner, but on the actual stage here, as you can see, in Pro League, it usually is not successful.
And there's no better time to actually try it and put it into action than in a match itself. As you said, you're absolutely correct. What might work in a scrim at some point will need to be applied outside of that bubble, and if it doesn't work in a real-time setting, then maybe come back and revisit it.
So, 1 minute already used from SK, and there hasn't been, well, nothing's happened. Eclipse trying to wiggle his way out through this main front door. He's looking for the frags.
Defender has left the
This is
area
a very
of operations.
dangerous peek, but it doesn't look like anyone from
Attackers
SK
have located
is
a bomb.
checking it right now, so it could pay out for extremely well for him if he just commits himself to it.
He's going to be somebody to keep watch for as another member. That was like the Valkyrie of Slash will rotate over to main lobby. Mint, who has been effective on the Ying so far, will now just come inside and he'll take out Geo from above. SK with 2, but Eclipse will answer back. And now Mint another onto Easily. How is Rogue letting this happen? Eclipse can't get back to sight as Hot and shuts him down. And they're just waiting. It's all up to Brian, who sees one in Attic. He will light up and down Hot and Cold, but he gives his position away. He's playing inside of small dorms, and the diffuser being successfully planted means he has only 45 seconds to work with. About 15 or so of those are gone, and now Brian will find himself waltzing right into the crosshairs of Mint, who gets 3 on that round to give SK the lead. And they're up 3-2. No real chance there whatsoever for the smoke to come back.
I have to say, Mint is absolutely insane. That rappel in kill on the Mira downstairs, are you kidding me? That doesn't happen. That does not happen. He just pre-fired the position he knew the Mira was going to be playing. But regardless, that is an unwinnable angle, and he won it. And then pushing in further, a player who has him completely by surprise near that bomb, didn't quite see what the operator was, but still winning that fight as well. Well done.
Seems like as this match is going on, SK is getting a lot more confident in their style of play. On border, a lot of mistakes being made. I'm not seeing a ton of mistakes on Oregon so far, and towards the end of Consulate, there were a lot of mistakes as well, but they were starting to become less frequent. These teams are settling into what has become quite a lengthy match and might actually be one of our longest matches so far this season, in part due to how quickly the games have been going. With attackers just coming in and winning.
It's the rounds themselves and then the round count as well. You know, we've been seeing a lot of fast attack rounds from each team and with a lot of 2-0s, and we've been seeing a lot of those round counts themselves like nowhere near overtime potential. A lot of really quick matches, but this one's going all the way. These two teams are toe-in-toe. Obviously, either one could win here. You know, we've been seeing, I think it's like you said, there's been a lot of mistakes, but overall it's been a good match. And I'd rather see teams that are evenly matched.
Oh, this is absolutely and unequivocally, I would say, a much better experience for the spectator, and as well for us too, and the teams as well. They're able to use their strats and use things that they have put into action in scrims, as we previously mentioned last round, and actually see whether the fruits of their labor will be successful or not. Now, inside of the watchtower, or back tower, just above rear stage, once again, more attic pressure, and Brian is all by his lonesome. The actual kids' dorm itself has been the hottest and most contested spot on this map, as a lot of times there's been solo entries, and Rogue just having a bad day with drones overall.
I mean, we've seen it a little bit from both teams, but yeah, it's a struggle sometimes. Slash gonna start calling out, though, for Geo, trying to set up those grenades yet again. They've seen some good success from this in the past. Trying to replicate that now. There doesn't seem to be anyone from SK actually playing in the position that is nadeable right now, though. I believe the first nade comes out. It does not kill anyone. Does damage Mint, and a firebolt will force Mint downstairs. He's now on low HP. And he will rotate very, very far, all the way into the crosshairs of Easily, who simply waits in lockers. Now Rogue has control over B bomb site, whether they know it or not. They're not going to commit to it fully, though, because they know Pojo Man from below could still potentially kill them through the angles that have been opened up in abundance. Hot and Cold uses his C4 with no success, and he will give away his position. Mint also, or excuse me, Jarvis also rotating over here to support his teammate, but loses the fight to Brian, just pushing up the main stairs. What is happening there in Jarvis's head? And now Hotten's got a refrag. And he's not going to be able to do that as he runs out, gets detected by the EU1D. Brian gets a double kill, and SK Gaming now in a 2 versus 5, swiftly turned into a 1 versus 5, easily finishing Pojo. And Adam now not going to be able to make it work. A perfect round for Rogue, not a single life lost, if I recall.
No, that is a flawless round, and that was Rogue's absolutely. I don't know what was going on with that call to bring in Jarvis.
The first attacker win there, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. No,
SK had one attacking previously.
I am mistaken.
Back-to-back attack wins.
So back-to-back attack wins.
Back-to-back attack.
Back-to-back.
So SK will now go on to attack. Laundry room and supply room is where Rogue will go, which is confusing because they could have gone anywhere. Rogue went to kids' dorms upstairs. They lost it. They're going to go back down to laundry and see if they can be successful here. Match point awaits us. Tied up 3-3, and a lot on the line for this team.
First attacker win for Rogue, though.
That is absolutely correct. So I'm very interested to see these two teams are playing very similarly on Kids Dorms. They are investing a lot into playing below the actual site and only keeping 1 to 2 people tops on the actual site itself, having 3, potentially 4, either underneath or playing aggressively nearby, but not in the actual walls of the site itself. That's something that you don't see all that often on Kids Dorms one bit. And how much do you think that just simply revolves around the fact that the play right now is just get inside of kids as quickly as you can, kids' dorms, of course, get inside of kids' dorms as quickly as you can, and just get a plant off.
I think it all revolves around that. I mean, clearly that's the strategy right now for the defense. You open up all of the kitchen ceiling / the kids' floor, and then you have control of the site from below, and that's a strategy that has been employed many, many a time, but it seems to be the heavy emphasis now. Of course, I feel like a broken record at this point, but disruption being the reason that that is the case. When you have your disruption, your smokes, your candelas, and all that being thrown into the kids' site itself, it doesn't affect you if you're playing from below. Now, of course, those candelas and smokes can be thrown downstairs from the windows on rappel, but it's a little bit trickier of a shot, and it exposes you while you're doing it. So overall, it makes sense that that is the strategy both teams are heavily invested into, but seeing mixed results so far, that's for sure.
Pojo will think twice about where he sets up his Claymore, as instead he'll go up top to see if there's anybody playing up there. But no, they've got a lot of bodies down on the main floor, and of course Meeting Hall will be the site where they need to push the hardest for the time being, because almost impossible to successfully get your plant off unless you have a superb site hold with Meeting Hall still full of bodies.
This is the very first time we're seeing a dedicated West clear on a basement hold. And what is that telling of, Intero?
They're probably going to rush and plant.
Through the main lobby? What a shot! Through the wall! Hot and Cold gets Geo attempting to rotate. That was a random kill. He was not intending to get it. Just a really bad timing there from Geo. But yes, this is telling of a main lobby attack, which also we haven't been seeing very much of. Here comes the push from Eclipse. It will get a kill into Hot, and what an angle to win a fight on. He goes for a second, can't get it initially. Jarvis gets a double for himself. Slashug responds. A back and forth. Mint rushing now into the Meeting Hall, trying to refrag his teammates even more. Slashug has moved his way up into Attic, and it seems like SK is aware of this. He's going to eat some bullets through the wall, but still retain his life. Very important. Brian, through the wall. What is going on? Gets Mint. It's an even 2 versus 2, 40 seconds. The E1D forces Brian to stand still. Pojo gets that kill. Slash now the last defender, and he is way off site. SK got to be conscious of this, and that's going to force Jarvis down to go for the plant. Pojo Man going to situate himself likely on that mirror window as soon as possible to give his team a good amount of control. Slush has rotated very wisely over to bunker. A great position here. Jarvis has been down. It's a 1 versus 1, and Slashhawk wins it! What is happening? Rogue against all odds, clutch out the round.
I am not sure why SK hesitated there on that plant, fearing somebody potentially pushing in through the main lobby. The Yokai was not much of a factor at all, as Slash did that completely by himself, and a superb clutch to put his team now on match point. Need I remind everybody that a potential early kill from Mint could have prevented Oregon entirely on border, but here we are, and I am almost assured that we will go to overtime. I will be surprised if we don't. Every single site is available for SK. They will decide to go downstairs at the last second after having originally locked in that second floor bunks and kids' dorms situation. So the basement will be the site for SK to hopefully, if you're a fan of theirs, push on to overtime. And Rogue is bringing out the Blitz. Slash and Eclipse have played Blitz before. They haven't done so much today at all, and now he is being summoned.
An operator that doesn't see a whole lot of use in this match so far. I mean, we saw him a little bit on Consulate, but for the most part, he's been shunned, which is kind of interesting. You know, we saw him a lot more in the earlier parts of this season.
Especially with Mint loving to play Blitz, not only enjoying Blitz, but also being quite good at him. And given the fact that he has a place right now on a team with reliability, it is a bit of a surprise, but they had him in on that Glaz for most of the game, and he's been fragging out. So now, what could potentially be our final round between two teams in what has been a very close match, and one, I think, closer than a lot of people suspect.
Oh, absolutely. As we've stated a couple times, you know, this is definitely an even contest, and SK Gaming really showing up here. But Rogue, I mean, that last that clutch just now from Slashug, absolutely fantastic. It really shouldn't have been their round. SK had everything going their way, and just manages to slip away from them at the last second. I mean, it was really it was back and forth, right? We never saw a decisive leader in the previous round. Now, Rogue gonna start their own West Side clear. This is the second time we've seen this. First time from Rogue. And a lot of impact damage being put onto Slashug early on. E1D, the first of its kind, gonna pop off in this round. Slashug trying to push in, but he enters into a well-positioned crossfire and dies. Not sure what was going on there with his thought process. Brian will be able to get Jarvis in the process, though. That's the Legion gone. I'm not sure what's going on here. Brian getting a double kill over by Master. Oh, he's catching the roamers as they rotate off of this west side hold. Well positioned there from Rogue.
They had Jarvis playing just by Master Closet with that open rotate hole, and yes, Brian indeed was there to catch them. Easily though, finishes off hot, and he was roaming too, and that's going to mean that there are 4 attackers about to crash into the 2 defenders sitting on site. But at least you have a mirror and a smoke as your 2 remaining defense.
Was the right operators in this situation. You've got the C4, you've got the 3 remote gas grenades. You've got your options.
And you've got this game hanging in the balance as well. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that a loss here does not mean that they don't make the playoffs. It will just mean they're bracketing harder.
Right.
The loser of this matchup, if they win all of the way, will face off against Evil Geniuses, just due to the way that the bracket seeding works. Adam, though, does take down Brian. So that's your Hibanagon. They've opened up most hatches. Her ability is not crucial, but her fragging potential is. And the fact that Brian has had a pretty consistent day so far. He's been a very steady hand. Adam, though, will use 1 smoke and push up quite aggressively onto that hatch. A risky move in which he could find himself losing his life. But now with 1 soft hatch, Eclipse will take care of it. And it looked like it was going to be a rotate towards the back of the tower, but no. Instead, Adam will just sit and wait, and Rogue is going to split up their forces. Easily could potentially drop from that hatch. Adam will use another remote gas grenade, 20 seconds left. Decently well timed. Pojo completely stunned, sitting and waiting for the drop. Adam gets droned and has an opportunity for another smoke to go out. It will go, and Pojo now will give himself away, but he has a C4. He'll get one, but Eclipse comes in. It's all up to Adam to clutch. Can he make it work? He has a shotgun barrel. They will likely go for a plan as Eclipse holds onto it, forcing Adam to have to emerge from the closet. He'll go out the other way though and give up possession of that mirror. He sees one, but no, Geo with the clutch, and Rogue will go to the playoffs as SK so close, yet not close enough. Rogue hangs on after a scare, and SK will have to play the winner of CLG versus Mouse coming up next.
They could still lose their potential to go to those playoffs, so that's very daunting, of course, for SK, but they played one heck of a match.
That was one of the most thrilling and also puzzling matches I think we've seen in probably 2 seasons, based on a number of factors that I'm sure everybody will love to dive into now that the VOD is going to be pushed up for them. But SK Gaming coming